Hello, I'm Mike Hayes, back with more fretboard adventures. In today's session, we're taking a look at the creative process of developing your own individual chord melody style on guitar. In a nutshell, it all boils down to paying attention to the details. Any art is the result of hundreds of thousands of little decisions that you make. That's called technique, the principles behind the decisions. All the top flight musicians know the best way to improve their craft is to learn 4 to 6 notes at a time. Composers such as Jerome Kern knew the best way to write his compositions was to consider the sound of every note. When he played one note, he'd then search through the whole chromatic scale, listening to the sound of every other note before he made a decision. Then once he got his second note, off he went again, the same process right through the chromatic scale. We're going to take a leaf out of Jerome's book today and see how much we can develop 3 notes, see how far we can develop these 3 notes in a chord melody style. I hope you get a lot out of it. There's a fairly involved session today, so you might need a few of your favourite beverages. Anyway, let's get started and see what we can develop with 3 notes. In today's lesson, we'll be taking a 3-note melodic cell and developing it to see how much musical mileage we can get out of these 3 notes. And this is a great way to develop your creativity and your own style. In this first exercise, we'll begin with the C major 7th chord, followed by the notes B, C, B. And these notes, the B, C, B, will be our melodic cell that we'll be developing throughout this session. Let's have a listen to this first. And now here's that same bar, the C major 7th chord first, the note B, and then what I'm going to do with the next 2 notes, the C note and the B note, I'm going to harmonise them in thirds. And remember that I'm harmonising these notes from the C major 6th diminished scale. In this next example, we'll begin with our C major 7th chord, play the note B as a single note. Next, we'll harmonise the C note in the same way that we did in the previous example. And for the last note, the note B, I'm going to create a chord by placing a harmony note above and below the B note. And as it turns out, the chord that we're creating will be part of a B diminished 7th chord. Let's have a listen. And as you can hear, the result is that the melody is still there, the B, C, B, but it sounds like the harmony is gradually expanding, and of course it is. Now let's look at this another way. Let's say we take the top notes of the harmony that we've created for this original melodic cell, and that will give us another idea that we can further expand on. So let's have a listen to the C major 7th chord, followed by the notes B, C and D. These are the top notes of the harmony that we just created. And as you can hear, that little melodic line now sounds like a scale type phrase. Let's continue up the scale. We're playing B, C, D, And of course, the next logical note to play would be E. In this next example, I'm going to begin with the C major 7th chord and then play our expanding harmony that we've just created before, and finally finishing with a C major 7th chord, with the top note in the C major 7th chord being the note E. By using our imagination and a little bit of creativity, that series of notes B, C, D, E could be the first 4 notes of Danny Boy. Of course, that series of 4 notes, the B, C, D, E, can be found in many tunes. But let's take a moment to develop that Danny Boy idea. I'm going to use that melodic cell and the harmonisation that we've been working on and play a C major 7th under the E note. Let's have a listen to how this might come together as the first 4 notes in a chord melody arrangement of Danny Boy. Let's try another variation. I'm going to use the same harmonisation for the first 3 notes. However, when I get to the second bar, I'm going to play C major 7th for 2 beats under the E note, and then C 6th with the E note as the top voicing in the chord. Let's have a listen. Here's one more example, just to show you some of the ideas that you can use to develop a melodic idea. I'm going to use the same pickup notes and the same harmonisation, only this time when I get to the E note in the second bar, I'm going to use some oblique motion, and we've spoke about this before in a previous video. Here we go. And that's where we're going to leave Danny Boy for the moment. We'll be working on a chord melody arrangement of Danny Boy in a future session. But for the moment, let's go back to our original idea, our 3 notes B, C, D. Only this time, instead of finishing on an E as our 4th note, let's move to the next note in the scale. So our new melodic line will have the notes B, C, D, F as the top note. Let's have a listen. Here's that same 4-note melody, only this time we'll place a D minor 7 flat 5 chord under the F note. Here's that same melody again, only this time we'll add some harmony in the first bar and finish once more with the D minor 7 flat 5 chord under the F note in the second bar. Okay, let's develop that idea a little bit further. We'll use the same harmony in the first bar, only this time in the second bar I'm going to play D minor 7 flat 5 for 2 beats, and then play a B diminished 7th chord under the second F note in bar 2. Keeping in mind that the D minor 7 flat 5 chord is in reality a B diminished 7th chord with a borrowed note, the borrowed note being C from the C 6th chord, which would be the next chord in the harmonised version of the C 6 diminished scale. I'm then going to extend this melody to include the note E in bar 3, and I'll be playing a C major 7th under this E note. Let's develop this idea a little bit more. So further down the rabbit hole we go, following this diminished chord. Now we know the diminished chords repeat every 3 frets. So what we'll do this time is play the notes B, C, D in bar 1. In bar 2 we'll have the note F, and then we'll move down to the note D. And I'm getting this idea from moving the diminished chord back 3 frets from where we just played it in the previous example. And then once again I'll play the note E in bar 3. Here's that same melody with our harmony notes in bar 1 and chords placed under the notes in bars 2 and 3. In this next example, I'm playing exactly the same idea, only I'm creating movement by alternating between a half diminished chord and its related diminished 7th chord. Here's that same example, only this time we'll be using that oblique motion on the C major 7th chord in bar 3. Next up, I'm going to play that same melody, only this time with the surprise chord in bar 2. And this chord, which is going to be a D flat major 7th under the F note, is from a concept called chordal contrasts, which is a subject I covered many years ago, and I'll put a link in the description below if you want to check that out. However, for the moment, I'll give you a brief idea as to where I'm getting this D flat major 7th from. On the screen at the moment, you'll see 2 lines of notes. And if you look closely at both lines, you'll see that the top line is an ascending chromatic scale starting on the note C, whereas the bottom line is a descending chromatic scale, once again starting on the note C. And the basic idea is that we're looking to find a chord that is the most contrasting sound to whatever chord we're playing. In this instance, I'm looking for a chord that features the most contrast to C major 7th. What I do, I take each note in a C major 7th chord and measure the distance in semitones. So if we take the note C and we measure it to the note E, we find that we have 4 semitones. And then if I measure from the note E to G, I find that I have 3 semitones. And then once more, if I measure from the note G to B, that we have 4 semitones. So our measurement between the notes in a C major 7th chord in terms of semitones is 4 semitones, then 3 semitones, and then 4 semitones. Now if I take that formula of 4, 3, 4 and take it to the bottom line, I'll find the notes of a chord that has the most contrast to C major 7th. I'll begin on the C note, moving along 4 semitones to the note A flat, then moving along 3 semitones to the note F, and then 4 semitones to the note D flat. And when I put these notes together, C, A flat, F, and D flat, they spell D flat major 7. So that's where that chord comes from. Let's have a listen to how that D flat major 7th adds an element of surprise and contrast. In this next example, I'm going to use the same set of notes, our same 3 notes that we've been playing all the way through, only this time we're going to finish with a different chord each time. I'll be moving up the scale, so have a close listen to how each chord sounds and feels in relation to those 3 original pickup notes. Well, that's it for today, folks. I do hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope there's something in there that you can use in your own music projects. We'll be covering subjects like these and a whole lot more in future sessions. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell. If you like the type of things that we're doing here, we'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. It really helps us a lot. If you've enjoyed this video and you've got some value out of it and you'd like to support the channel and help spread the word, you can donate to this channel by clicking on the donate link in the description below. My best wishes to you in your continued music success. Bye for now.